Hello everybody, I'm the Imagine Idiot, and welcome back to Aquarama, and welcome to the Cascade, now themed and fully fitted out with its various bits of scenery, themed after a wonderful cascading waterfall, and really aptly named because it has now completely started sleeting it down here in the park. Hopefully that won't last too long, and we're just going to power through it, and let's scoot over and take a look about how some of this theming is put together. Mostly this is just the various not temperate rocks, I think these are tropical rocks. In reality, in the park itself, these would all be fiberglass attached to a large metal frame at the back there, with all these water effects falling down into an artificial pool that I've put together using some of the aquatic pieces, which I think merge really nicely with the actual ride itself here. And then scooting around to the back, we can see a little bit of the framework. There's actually a full framework completely hidden under these rocks, which was absolutely time well spent on my part. But you can also see a little bit of the pumping system, just adding that sort of, just a little touch of realism, suggesting that there are actual mechanics in place to make all of this work and make all of this reasonable. Which is, that's the level of realism I think I'm going for in this series. Not fully in depth, not cutting out every little bit, but suggesting enough to suggest that there are things that make this work and things that make this function in a practical sense. And we can scoot over to the next area we're going to be working on in this episode. We're going to be building out the boardwalk that runs alongside the lake here. A reality that we're going to have to face with this park is, while the park is aquatically themed, not every ride in the game is, and you could theoretically go through and apply an aquatic theme to every single ride that's in here. But as creative as I am, I think my inspiration is going to start running dry about 2 steps into that process. And instead, you can sort of cheat it a little bit, as the park has done here. A boardwalk is, of course, water-themed, so any rides that you put on a boardwalk, those typical boardwalk fairground-style rides, are also aquatically themed, kind of, question mark. So, this episode will be building out this area. We've just got the very start of it put together, and the rides put in where they're going to be sitting. Let's come back in a couple of minutes when we've got all this built out into its finished form. And here we are with the completed boardwalk. This has been one of my favourite things to work on so far. Admittedly, part 2 of 2, but I really enjoyed the way that everything in this came together. I think it's looking fantastic, and it was a ton of fun to build. Scrolling over, we'll take a look first at some of these traditional Midway games and stands. Everything I could say about gift shops is true for these in terms of how much easier these are to build now in Planet Coaster 2. Being able to rescale all these items, being able to rescale objects and use them to build out the games in the background. And the fact that we can put actually functioning counters in there now so that people will come along and use them, and it looks at least a little bit like people are interacting with the games, is so much better and so much more engaging than it was in Planet Coaster 1, where maybe we would put like an animatronic staff member in there and at least that would look like it works, but now people will actually come along to these stands and use them and make them look like a functioning part of the park, which is absolutely great. In terms of the build-out, this is very similar to how things worked in the gift shop, and of course in terms of build, stand, countertop, wrap. Enough said. You'll be sick of me saying that already by now. But then in terms of building out the actual framework around it, we're using a lot of the wooden pieces from the resort. We're using a lot of the wooden pieces from the Viking set. Because frankly, if you've got aged wood and you've got some curvy shapes and some trim, you've got everything you need to build a Midway. Scrolling down, again, we've got fully functioning ice cream stands and slush stands. And I think just this sign, just having that, the ability to so easily put text on it and to rescale and move the text around, you get a very convincing looking Midway sign with really not that much effort. And I think it looks great. For these, I haven't kitted out the background so much because putting together what looks like it might be a functioning fridge out of the pieces in the game, I'm maybe not so sure I can do at the moment. But the outside, I think, looks fantastic. Scrolling along. This might just be me, and this might just be a little idiosyncrasy that I have, but just having those couple of soda stands, those couple of vending machines, sitting there on the edge of the boardwalk looks right and makes it kind of look real and more boardwalky. Not sure if that's just a crazy thing that I have, but it's just like the little touch that I think somehow adds quite a lot. And then, of course, dominating the skyline behind it, we've got the Ferris wheel. What's its water theme? It's sitting over some water. But the views from that ultimately are going to be fantastic when they're not looking out onto a half-built, half-empty park. And looking down at the queue line, the roof of this is just made out of art shapes, squidged together to look like a fully trimmed it would be plastic sheeting cover, and then just spammed across there and used twice to create the coverage for the path. Talking of art shapes, we have this Chief Beef 1950s Googie style restaurant, and this is almost the complete embodiment of the term, we do these things not because they are easy, but because we thought they were going to be easy. I thought to myself, let's build a 1950s diner. I can make the roof out of art shapes. It'll be great. It'll be really easy. I forgot that trying to make the corners of roofs, which is absolutely essential, is sometimes a bit of a nightmare when you're doing bespoke roofs. So for the edges here where things get a little bit ugly, we've covered these up with these lovely silver arches. These are silver arches. These are not affiliated with any other colour of arches that you might know from other fast food chains, and Chief Beef's lawyers would like you to understand that. This is a Chief Beef restaurant. I kind of love actually using the in-game theme restaurants. I think they add a little bit to the world, and I kind of like using them throughout the parks. I also love here this Chief Beef sign. This is one of my favourite things. Again, because I always kind of wanted to have a rotating sign like this in Planet Coaster 1, but you couldn't do it. Here, it's just two Chief Beef signs, scaled up, slapped together, and attached to one of the spinning animatronic mechanisms. And you get this rotating sign, which, for this style of restaurant, in this style of area, is completely believable, absolutely what I'm going for. And it adds just so much, I think, to the look of the thing, just from that really simple mechanism. Scrolling inside, the restaurant is, of course, fitted out with tables, chairs, windows which are vertically oriented water, as you've probably seen people using elsewhere. Frontier, please do hurry up with that update. I'd like to have some glass, would be nice. And in speaking of please do hurry up with that update, we've fitted the back of the restaurant out. I've even gone to the stage of actually putting in some things that look like they could be cooking equipment, which was quite easy to build using a lot of the aquatic pieces. And up over the top is where the menus would be, and where I would put the menus if I had the bespoke billboards to do that, but we don't. Please, Frontier, hurry up with that update, and let us just put that extra bit of flexibility into the parks. Really looking forward to that. Scaling back out again and crashing through the wall there. Off to the right we have more toilets, the part of the episode everyone gets excited for, because, again, as I said, unlike some other YouTubers, I don't fully fit out the toilets, so inside we just have a literal hole to nowhere leading to a hole in the wall. This one's a little bit nicer than I think than the one out in the front of the park. It would get a little bit less traffic, and it probably doesn't have quite the horrifying smell that the park entrance one does. And also, just on the outside, it's a little bit more themed into the boardwalk. You've got the wooden trim, you've got the aged wood. You've also got some pieces of scenery here which are to tie into a little bit of a theming that we've got off down to the right on the road. We've also got a nice staff area down the back there, accessible by a staff path. And then a chairplane. What does a chairplane have to do with water? Absolutely nothing. But it's on a boardwalk. Boardwalks are water. That's the park's excuse, and they're going with it. Same path covering as you have on the Ferris wheel, recoloured red instead of blue, and again, just spammed out across the entire length of the path. Putting in a jump cut, you're probably going to get at least one of those an episode, because I live next to a main road and sometimes the traffic gets loud. But here we've come to something where the theme parks actually put in a little bit more effort, actually done a little bit more thinking. They have a wooden wild mouse coaster. How do we theme a wild mouse towards something a bit more nautical, a bit more aquatic? Well, you get rats on a ship. So here we have the bilge rat. So I've just gone through and filled out both the queue line and the station with a bit more of a nautical theme. We have ships, masts from the Viking set, various bits of shipwreck scattered around, and these really quite lovely aquatic type lights from the resort pack. And going up the actual station itself, fitted with ropes and cranes and coverings to make it all slide into that nautical theme. And these coverings here are actually from the market in the Mythic set, but once again coloured all into the same colour, and I think that nice ragged canvasy look really fits in well with the ship theme here, and it gives it all that sense of perhaps a bunch of rats frantically abandoning a sinking ship. And on that remarkably cheery thought, we're going to scoot on down here to what will be eventually a bridge that leads out onto another themed area. And I think once we get to that area, we're going to be having a little bit more heavily themed, and a few more things that can tie into an aquatic theme a bit more easily and naturally. Something I will say about the theming options that Frontier have put into the game, a lot of people saying, oh, why is it aquatic? Why is it like the aquatic theme and the Vikings and the Mythic, and why have we got these instead of the classic ones? Because all of those themes, I think, can tie in a little bit more closely to water theming and aquatic theming, and that's why I've decided to take this avenue with the park. For the Mythic, you've got Atlantis. For Vikings, you've got Vikings and ships and pillaging and all that kind of thing. So I think if I lean into what the themes can do rather than away from it, we may have a bit of an easier time with building a park. That's not what we're doing next week, though. Next week, I'm going to go all the way down here, and we're going to be looking at this bridge area, the island in the middle, and a little bit of transport options that we can use to get people from this side of the park and the theme side over to the other side, and this area over here, which ultimately is going to be where we have our water park. So that's what we've got coming up next week. Hope that you enjoyed this episode, and hope you enjoy our little boardwalk area here. And remember, if anything doesn't look quite right, if anything doesn't look like it's put together how a theme park would, I'm not an Imagineer, I'm the Imagine Idiot. Have a great week, and I'll see you back soon.